Hey everybody, it's Noah with his own podcast. Today I'm with Randy. He's the owner of DT Roofing and then all the DT companies. So just go ahead, introduce yourself, and let everybody know what you're about.
Sure. My name is Randy Hurtado. I am first and foremost a Christian, and then I'm a husband to a beautiful bride I've been with since 1990, and we have 6 kids, and out of that, 2 grandchildren so far. Um, when I'm not working, I have a ranch, and we have about 60 animals that I maintain. And so between my 4 boys, we're able to keep it going.
Nice. Wait, what is the most, I guess, exotic creature you might have on the farm?
Most exotic. Well, it just depends. If you're from Texas, I don't think anything I have is going to be exotic. But if you're like from California, we have longhorn. We have miniature donkeys, mini
Oh,
donkeys.
mini
Yeah.
donkeys.
We also have a mammoth donkey, the size of a horse.
Wow.
That one came with the ranch when I bought it, and then the rest of them are goats, pigs. You know, so
Cool.
whenever
Cool.
my
Well,
wife sees needs to be rescued.
yeah. That's awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and dive straight into it. Kind of tell us about where your story, how'd you get into roofing, and then you know the DT companies in general.
Yeah, sure. So um, I spent a majority of my career in IT security. Actually, had nothing to do with construction at all. About 20 some odd years of my life, I was a computer nerd.
Mhm.
Straight out of high school, I found that I really enjoyed technology, and so I spent a lot of time consulting for a software company that that was put a focus on security in the IT infrastructure. And so I would travel all over the United States. Some of my customers included the Pentagon, Halliburton, um, Mattel, all the Fortune 50 companies that cared about their network
Mhm.
security. And I would go in and consult as to the specific area was privileged identity management. So anytime you log into a computer, you're using either a credential or a two-factor of some sort. And our solution was to help them better manage those credentials so that you wouldn't have bad actors outside of the company compromise
Mhm.
those credentials and then take information off the network. And so I did that for a long time. I ended up getting an office right next to DT Roofing. I was working from home when I moved from California to Texas in 2005. I was working from home, and I realized really quickly that that wasn't going to work out for me. With the kids, especially during the summer, they're super loud and having to constantly apologize for the background noise. And
Yeah.
now with COVID era, it's a lot more understood that there's going to maybe be a dog barking or a doorbell ringing or a kid screaming, but back then that wasn't as welcomed. And so I ended up getting renting an office next to DT Roofing.
Mhm.
And I was doing my consulting, my IT security consulting, but being the extrovert that I am, I would kind of go talk to the neighbors and built a friendship with the owner of the then owner, sole owner of the company, Derek Tanner. That's where the
Mhm.
DT came from. And, we'd grab lunch and he'd ask questions about, business related questions. I didn't really know anything at the time about roofing, but I knew a lot about business. I understood business, sales.
Mhm.
So I'd give him some ideas. He'd try them, and there's a lot of synergy there. Well, right around that time, my largest customer, who I had been with for about 18 years, got bought out. They got bought out for $100 million, and they didn't need my services anymore. And it was just like that. It wasn't anything more than that. I learned a really good lesson in that, and that kind of led me into the business decisions as a partner that I made later on. But yeah, just Derek had been kind of prodding me, hey, you need to come on board, and I, I IT security was like an identity to me, and so
Right.
I. As much as I saw the value in the roofing world, I had always done that, so I didn't want to change, and I got change forced upon me, and so yeah, came on board with Derek shortly after that. Quickly became his top salesman. Started running both the sales team and being a salesman. And yeah, pretty quickly. I think at the time, the highest number achieved by the company, which had been in business since 2009, this was 2016. When I came on board, was about 1.8 million in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And I just one of the things that I had mentioned to Derek was, hey, listen, I realize this is your company, but I need you to let me run it
Right.
because I want to, and I want to bring in a lot of the technologies that, you know, this company needs for automation, for processing, and what have you. And it worked out really well. Several years later, we'll probably do about 30 million this year between our four companies, roofing being a majority of that. And we're continuing to grow. I really do feel, and my guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I really still feel like we're at the foundational level of where our company's headed.
Do you think automation, you said an interesting key on there about automation and putting that into the business. Do you think that's what held a lot of business owners back? Because nowadays, most businesses have automation involved. But do you think that was something that really a lot of businesses, if they made that switch, it helped them out a lot tremendously?
Well, anymore, it's impossible to run a business without some type of CRM, some type of tracking software to know your KPIs to make sure that you're hitting your goals. If you have nothing to measure, you never know if you got there, right? And so
Right.
it is lucrative for a company to have to invest in technology these days to know what. Nothing's worse than not knowing where your marketing dollars, what they're doing for you. You know,
Right.
uh, and so having technology in place that tracks that, having the right people in place that understands that. For some reason, it feels like my camera is not on focus, but I apologize for that. It has never done that before, but anyhow, yeah. So I do think that it's very important to put a certain measure of automation into your company in
Mhm.
order to because otherwise you're going to have to do it with man hours and manpower, and that's going to be a lot more expensive than making an initial investment.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Okay.
technology has definitely helped our company quite a bit.
Even kind of rolling into that and talking a little bit about building a strong team. How do you think you built a strong team? And then for other people out there, how do you build that strong team?
Well, one of the things that was new to me because prior to coming on with DT Roofing, I was always even though we were I had the contract with the company. I had my own funnel. It was almost like my own business that I had
Mhm.
to run within that company. And the the concept of somebody else doing it was completely removed from me. Like, I always had to do everything, and what I realized real quickly when we hit about the probably around the 5.56 million dollar point was it's not going to be sustainable for me to stay in sales and
Mhm.
and continue to grow um, because there's not enough hours in the day. As I mentioned in the opening, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a husband, and so I wasn't going to be a robot that just always worked, and then I never had any time for anything else. So that's when I came to the realization, and this was right around the time that I ended up getting equity in the company. um, it's actually kind of ironic because right around the time that Derek was willing to give up equity in the company is when I said, I think I need to get out of sales. And of course, he's looking at it going, oh, time out, time out. I gave up equity in the company, and now my number one revenue provider is wanting to back out of the thing that brought in revenue. And where I had to bring him mindset wise was I'm not able to do this on my own, but I can train people to do it the way I did it successfully. And if I could do that, now it's just a multiplier. And
Right.
so that's what we did. It actually fell perfect timing right during COVID. And so we had a lot of people in our our area that we knew that were professionals but had never sold anything before. So I have a teacher that works for us now. I have a retired fireman, a radiologist, a construction crew boss for a billboard company that was a nationwide billboard company. These are just a few examples of people that were victim to COVID and lost their jobs. And we saw something in their personality that we felt we could build upon. And so we built our team quite a bit during COVID. And then all we would do is the requirement was they had to go out into the field with me for 2 weeks before ever even getting a lead, and just taking in as much as they can, asking questions during the drives, getting up on the roofs, learning the process, learning the table conversation, basically from soup to nuts. And then once we felt they were ready, then we would slowly trickle in leads to them, but they'd still have to work it with a senior level person until that person kind of gave them the okay that they got it, that they got it under control. And that's really how we built our team to be as solid as it is today. Yeah, I mean, these guys are awesome. Our turnover rate is very, very low. And it's because we start from the very beginning with an expectation and a culture that is very well defined. And so there's no ambiguity at all about what our expectations are, what their job is. And now it's just a matter of let's get out there and get it done. And now it's a new month. We're back at zero again. Now let's get back up to the top. And so we don't have those eaves and valleys.
That was interesting for the I know about shadowing, and I mean almost every job does the shadowing where they're like, hey, you shadow me for a while. But you're saying you had somebody else kind of shadowing them behind them, making sure that they're doing the right thing. And then the interesting thing was funneling leads. So it seems like with most companies, they either give you the leads or they're just kind of like, you go do it. That's your whole thing. We're not going to really funnel you anything. It's just you go do your own business and then you go.
Yeah, what I've learned since 16, the majority of companies out there more follow the latter, and that is go out there, door knock, find your own opportunities.
Right.
And that's big for us. Obviously, these guys are required to, our guys are required to find their own business, and it needs to be a percentage higher than what they're given. But we're also huge we have a round robin. And so every single lead that comes in is, unless it's already owned by somebody in the system, is assigned to the next guy on the round robin. And my VP of sales is very keen on if anyone is taking advantage of that, he'll notice, hey, your self-gens have dropped, notice that you're getting great sales, but it's a majority company generated leads, and kind of just pulling them in and pouring into them just to make sure that they remember the ultimate goal is to build a business within the business for them, their funnel. And we're also pretty open with our guys. And, so there's not a whole lot of secrets within the company. Like our commission structure is very well defined. They can always ask any questions they want after we've submitted the commission report each week. If they disagree with something, or why did I get charged this on this job, and we're pretty open. There's some companies that I've heard that are just like, don't question me. This is what you got. Be happy you got that. We're not about that.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories of like people sitting there going on a blitz or something like that, storm chasing, and they should be owed like 30 grand in commissions, and then they leave with 10. Yeah. And it's like you didn't sign anything, bud. Like you're all good. You go back there, you're all good. You didn't sign anything. We didn't do anything like that. And that's why a lot of people
understood how morally people can do that to somebody. Like I mentioned, we have very little turnover, but we have had a few guys that just didn't fit ultimately.
Right.
But if they earned it, they get it, and we'll see the job through and then pay them their commission. And it's not uncommon for a month, 2 months after they've been, they've parted ways with us, that they've got a check in the mail for, their commission for some job that finally paid or what have you. It's just the right thing to do, and I really do believe that philosophy and that mindset, and internally, culturally, we believe that God continues to bless our companies because we're doing the right thing. We're not going to do it the wrong way just to gain a few dollars, whether it be with our staff or with our customers. And yeah.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit, to be even being on those doors, what's a memorable customer experience that has stood out to you throughout your career?
Well, so I leaned on my sales staff when you mentioned this question because they are obviously volume wise they are handling a lot more customers daily now than I am, and some of the funny stories they reminded me of. We've had we've had times where the one of our guys was a few doors down and heard a scream, and he ran outside, and a lady's house was on fire. And
What?
so he ran over, grabbed the hose, and was trying to, keep the flames at bay until the fire department showed up. That was a pretty cool story. Not so cool for the customer, for the lady that it happened to, but that doesn't happen every day. And another guy, he was in kind of a seedy, shady part of DFW, and he was up on one customer's roof, and he looks down to see a guy pointing a gun at him next door. He thought that the neighbor ultimately, so I believe he had good intentions. He thought that we were trying to break into the house from the roof. And our guy let him know, like, no, we were asked to come inspect this roof. There was one where one of our guys went out, inspected a roof for this elderly lady. And when he knocked on the door to give her the results of his inspection, she invited him in, ended up talking, and we encouraged this, but ended up talking with her for probably 2 or 3 hours. Like you could tell she just, and the way he described it is she just needed somebody to talk to. I don't know if she didn't have family in the area or whatever, but she just wanted to talk. And so he said, while I'm there, I probably saw 4 or 5 of our trucks drive through the neighborhood. So it was probably during a time when there was a big storm, what have you, but he took the time to spend with her. And he said, I even got to pray for her on some concerns that she had and everything. And then he said, as I'm leaving, she said, all right, well, thank you so much for looking at my roof. My grandson's a roofer, so I'm probably going to have him do the roof. And he was like, all right, well, if that changes, just let me know. And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, she reached out. It's like, I decided I don't want to do business with family, so I'm going to let you do the roof. But yeah, it was kind of a funny little moment. But gosh, we deal with so many clients. We probably do right now between 650 and 750 roofs a year. And so that's a lot of customer interaction. And so those are some of the crazier stories. But
how do you, with putting on all those roofs, how do you maintain that quality?
Well, it's very important for us to make sure that we're not, for example, our crews have been with us longer than I've been with the company. And so they know our quality expectation, and it's not an exception. There's no exception. Like, if they were even, and of course, over time, as we've grown, we've had to find more crews that we can forge that relationship with. But that's really what it's about for us. It's a relationship. I think another mistake that a lot of business owners make is they look at the crews or the quality control guys or what have you as just people that are just out there just doing their thing, and they don't look at them as human beings and build relationships with them. It's amazing how far that will go. I mean, obviously you need to pay the person correctly, but that goes a huge distance when you consider, like, when they're in the moment and it's like, should I? Yes, I need to do that. Because they know not only that that's our requirement, but also it's the right thing to do. And man, these guys treat me right and everything. And so relationships are big for us in that regard. So quality hasn't really ever been a concern for us. In fact, I think the last time I remember receiving a call that got escalated to ownership was a lady. We had a well-meaning material vendor who ran out of regular ridge. And so he sent high-profile ridge at no cost to us, but didn't tell us. And obviously the crew just saw the ridge that was delivered, so they installed it. Well, most customers would be like, awesome. I got an upgraded ridge and hip system. This customer said, my roof looks different than it did before. And
Mm,
then we realized what had happened. And fortunately, she stuck with it, so we didn't have to rip it off. But that's probably the biggest complaint that we've received about install that I can
right.
recall, just because our guys know there's an expectation. If another thing that we do that I'd recommend all companies do is all of our guys are required to take pre-job pictures around the entire property, cracks in the concrete, flashing the way it looks, whatever, because an interesting psychology happens when somebody has something done to their house. Is it's after the job is complete is when they start to look for problems. And so
Right.
where something may have been like that already, they didn't notice it until after they started looking. And so there's been several times it saved our butt where, we've had a customer claim that we cracked their concrete driveway with the pallets or whatever. And we're like, no, sir. I mean, I'm sorry that you're not happy with that, but here's a photo and it's date and time stamped of that same crack. It was already like that. And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess I just didn't notice. It's like, yeah, most people don't. Or we'll get the counter flashing, counter flashing sticking out, you know, over the step flashing. Well, it didn't look like that before. Well, actually, it did. Here's a photo of we just painted it after we installed the step flashing appropriately underneath it or whatever. So that is something that we do to make sure, because quality is subjective, right?
Right.
Um, what I consider quality of person. So quality is not just about the install, but the experience. And so,
Mhm.
like in those cases where the customer said, well, it wasn't like that before, and you can show them, yeah, it was, that has an impact on them as well. Like, wow, good for them that they actually pay attention to this stuff so well. And
Yeah.
we end up getting a ton of reviews off of our installs, which is another, from a marketing standpoint, something that we push heavily with our guys is regardless of whether we exchange dollars with a customer to get that review. Because what is a review? A review is the experience that the person had with our company. So
Mhm.
if I go out and I do an inspection for a customer and it turns out there's no damage, there's not even a repair that needs to be made, and I get off the roof and I give them that great news, most of the time what you're going to hear is, man, thank you so much for coming out. I'm sorry I wasted your time. And so
Right.
that's your perfect opportunity to say, hey, it's not a waste of time at all. Every time a wind or a hailstorm comes through, give me another call, come out, I'll reinspect it. We'll stay on top of this until a storm does take it out. That way we don't have situations where your insurance company claims it's old damage. They're like, oh, that's a great idea. And then I'll follow it. My guys do too. Is I'll tell you what, if you had a good experience with us, I'm going to send you a text with our Google review link. If you could just give a review on what your experience was. Oh, absolutely. Now they're all jumping at it because now it's their way to thank us for doing free work essentially for them.
Reciprocity.
And it makes a big difference. I mean, we're nearing 600 five-star reviews, and with my goal being 1,000, um, that's our next step. So, yeah,
With
quality
that,
quality is definitely important, but it hasn't been an issue thus far.
okay. And with those reviews, I mean, that's just that reciprocity of like, hey, they want to give back in some sort of way.
Right.
And it's always the best thing to hear when you truly come in and try to see what's best for that customer.
Yeah.
Because I know they really appreciate that, and a lot of people will try to, get try to do something else, like try to sell something else, so get something here.
Well, it's not to say
But
that
it's
it's not a great
yeah.
opportunity for us. As you mentioned in the onset of the video, we have multiple
Mhm.
companies. So we're a
Right,
roofing company, but we also have an exterior cleaning company. We
right,
have a construction company that does remodels and additions and patios and pergolas. We have a garage door and service company. And so our guys are trained to always look for an opportunity to
right,
sell something.
right,
And again, giving the customer, what I like to say is giving the customer the opportunity to say no. You know, that's all you're doing, right? You're not being pushy. You're just letting them know, because how many times has somebody said, yeah, I'm getting ready to build a pergola or whatever. We do that. You know, you do? I didn't know that, and next thing you know, you're getting an opportunity at that project.
Right.
So yeah, no, we definitely take every opportunity to advise the customer, hey, just want to make you aware, we're actually a combination of four companies. Da, 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 da. I didn't know that. Sometimes it's just put it in the back of the memory. Other times it's, well, that's great to know. While you're here, what would it take to get a quote for this or what have you? But our soft washing division has really helped with our roofing division because
Mhm.
not every roof needs to be replaced, right? Sometimes it
Right.
just has algae on it, um, but it's unsightly. That algae
Mhm.
is feeding off the limestone in the shingle, and so it's breaking the roof down. And when it's only hundreds of dollars to clean the roof, and it gives us an opportunity to get on the roof, right? So
Right.
if we're driving through a neighborhood and we see stains on a roof, that's a great conversation starter, right? We knock and what sounds better? Hi, I'm a roofer and I want to get on your roof to inspect it. Or I couldn't help but notice the black stains on there. Oh, I know. I hate it. Well, we actually have a process for getting rid of that and it's safe. We don't use power. We use a chemical and it makes the roof look new again when we're all done. Stops the algae from feeding off the limestone. Why don't you let me hop up there real quick, make sure that there's no issues with the roof, and then I can give you an estimate for what it'd take to clean it. Well, now I'm getting a roof inspection out of it. And there's been
Right.
several times where customers called us to give them a quote on cleaning their roof for, it'd been a $450 roof clean, and it turns into a $40,000 claim because we get up there and it has hail damage throughout the whole system. Plus, we sold them a pergola on the back of their house or, painted the house or whatever. So I wouldn't even really call that business a loss leader because it's a profitable company, but it
Mhm.
definitely is a conversation starter at a
Mhm.
much lower price point so that you can start that conversation with the client. Plus, it's also a differentiator. If I'm going up against another roofing company and I have that service in my back pocket, my guys are trained that they can use that as a negotiating. Now, the company, our exterior company, cleaning company, will still get paid for the work that they do, but it'll come out of the cost of the roofing job. And so they have that as well. I'll tell you what, if that's the only thing hanging you up, how about when we're all said and done, we surface clean your driveway because we're inevitably going to leave some tire marks behind or what have you. Okay, well, yeah, if you'll do that, let's go ahead. And so the guys have that in their back pocket.
Yeah, and they're able to put somebody in the right box. They're able to take a more consultative role, and have put them into that box instead of just one thing. And I'm just trying to make that one sale.
Right.
Um, but kind of switching gears a little bit, going back to the automation piece and bringing in AI. What are your thoughts?
So we haven't really done a whole lot of research internally through our marketing department on AI. We have used some third party services. So for example, and I'm only assuming that some of it is using AI. I don't have this
Mhm.
as a direct understanding, but we work heavily with Directory, which is it's a company that they guarantee every roof that we install with a $20,000 guarantee, which makes us a differentiator. Also, as another key differentiator if we're in a competitive situation,
Mhm.
especially with the number of people that have been screwed by contractors. And
Mhm.
part of that partnership is they actually run ads in our area promoting us, right? Because if they know every single job that we do is going to be registered with them, then they go and take some of that revenue that they make off of us and reinvest it into our area to promote us. And some of the ads to me come across a little bit AI-ish. Um, Chat GBT has been pretty cool. I've used it to summarize if there's a book that I'm interested in reading. Actually, a friend in the industry, Cody Klein, gave me this idea. Um, and if I want to know a little bit about a book before I actually take the time and invest in reading it, because I hate reading, I'd rather listen to a book. I'll use Chat GBT to give me an outline of the key points in the book, just to see if
Mhm.
it's even interesting. Um, but that's probably the extent of where we've used where I personally have used AI um,
Mhm.
currently. But yeah, I do see it playing a part, if not a significant part, in multiple facets of business. Period, regardless of whether it's roofing technology. Um, I definitely see it playing a huge part in the future, especially with quickness. At 3 a.m., somebody's up and they happen to write in, and then a chat bot replies back right away, and then can have a conversation with them based on its knowledge of what it can and can't say. I think that
Right.
will help. That will help win opportunities. Whereas before, if the person didn't hear back right away, as unreasonable as that may sound, they may have looked elsewhere.
Right.
Um, what have you been hearing in the industry in regards to AI?
Well, just I have several thoughts on it. It's pretty much just same with the chatbot is something that's really popular right now. That's something we provide over at Scorestone Strategies. Just because you're able to get back to somebody immediately. A lot of voice cloning stuff. So you just have to record one time your voice, and then you can have 50 different email or 50 different voicemails that you can test out to see which one's the best.
Mhm.
So I just think whoever, I think it can become scary in a sense because it can be like, hey, it's going to be direct to consumer for a lot of things like shipping a roof to you and stuff, or like installing and paying one click checkout and talking to an AI real quick. But I really don't think that's going to be the case because human connection is never going to be something that is going to go away.
Oh,
It's always going to be the companies that humans with AI will beat humans without it because they're going to be more efficient. Like when you guys first got into automations, looking at those KPIs, knowing your numbers, having those when they come off the ad, they get a first response and then an internal notification and somebody can pick that up. It just takes that a little bit further. And
right.
then it's more of an appointment setting type of thing.
No, and I absolutely agree with you that the human touch is never going to be. I mean, that's just it's instilled in us, that,
Right.
and so, you know, but there are going to be people that I'm sure will disagree and say I'm running an entire sales team off of AI bots and what have you, and that may work for
Yeah.
them, but you know, yeah,
Well, you can't automate community. That's
right.
one thing that can never be taken away is community,
You should
as
tag,
well as self improvement.
you
What's
should
up?
tag, you should tag that. That's actually a profound statement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's one thing you can't take away community. That's and that's a very in business that is a very important thing, right? We all want to have our communities. We all want to have even Facebook groups like for businesses. I know that's something that really works very, very well for a lot of businesses,
yeah,
and that just can't be automated, taken away, nothing. So,
right.
but other than that, do you have any final thoughts, final things you want to tell the audience before we go ahead and wrap everything up?
I mean, if there's anything specific that you want me to talk about, I certainly can. But yeah, no, our recent endeavors has been really about partnering with industry movers and shakers to better not only better understand the industry so that we can better serve our customers and our staff,
Mm-hmm.
but also make our brand more aware. When I saw your post saying, "Hey, looking for a company that would like to come on," and every opportunity that I get, to be honest with you, and this has nothing to do with Randy Hurtado, it has to do with that logo right there, and so we forged relationships recently with roofing.com, which is, of course, you may know, is run by Hunter Bailu, the same one that runs RoofCon,
Yep.
with Dimitri Levinsky with Directory, and with Ryan Groth with Sales Transformation Group. That has been an excellent resource for our sales team, not only from the residential sales side, but also the commercial. We're in the process right now of building our commercial brand out. It is going to be a separate company, but still a DT branded company. And where we're putting our emphasis on is less about the full replacements and more about the service relations,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just a better story and value for the building owner. If you come to somebody and say it's going to cost $1 million to replace this roof, they're probably going to put it off for a long time, especially if they can't put it under an insurance claim. But if you go to them and with some repairs, you take that roof under your shield and say, for this service fee a year, we'll own this roof outside of acts of God or acts of man, um, and potentially extend this roof by 10 to 15 years. Much better value proposition to the building owner or to whoever is maintaining the building. And so that's a process that we're building right now, and we're using Ryan Groth's service section of the STG organization, and it's working out great. So it's a slow move, obviously, because it's an entirely new business. But the success we had on the residential side with our guys and getting that confidence, that door-to-door knocking, and a lot of that also came through people in our industry like Heath Hicks and Ronnie Lawler and the like that really understand door-to-door. They've been a huge encouragement to us to really just. There's some companies that are, hey, we're door-to-door. Another company, hey, we're all SEO and we're billboards and we're wraps. And DT Roofing comes along, we're like, dude, we're all of the above.
Yeah,
everything, but we follow what's working and what's not, so that we're not continuing to dump money. I mean, we ran a report just recently, and we just started doing this particular report, but I think we'd only spent like $3,700 this year on Facebook ads, and it yielded like $500,000 in revenue. And like, wow, that's where I want to spend money, right? If you don't know that information, then you could think that the money that you're spending on this thing over here, this odd magazine that reached out to you 2 years ago that you feel good about being in, but it's not really yielding any leads or opportunity. That'll tell you right out of the gate if you have those type of reports in place. And so our marketing VP, Morgan, is a brain when it comes to that stuff. She's focusing and making sure she understands where the money's being spent and that there's a good ROI on it. So,
yeah, I think that's something I kind of wanted to ask a little bit of a question about. You said we do everything when it comes to that. How does a person first starting get into roofing? Do you think they should just try everything at first, or should they stick to one?
No. Okay, so I guess I want to clarify the question. So are we talking about the marketing side or the business side?
I'm talking about how do we get leads? Like when I first get started as a roofing company, how am I getting leads?
So it's actually an answer from both sides. And I'm actually going to be speaking on this at the Roofing Process Conference in December, the one that Dmitry Lubinski runs. The title of the talk is Master of None. And I think a huge, and this isn't a message for everyone, because there's going to be somebody that says, well, I do it that way and I've been successful. Great. But it's just not the norm in my research. And again, I'm speaking from this from a perspective, an outsider perspective. I was a computer nerd. I would spend 2 weeks at the Pentagon with the Office of Secretary of Defense, keeping China out of the network. So I came into this industry knowing nothing about the industry. So and now here we are today, and the success we've had. So what I'm about to share has been studying the market and studying the industries. Try to offer a single service and get known for that first, because there's far too many guys out there that are like, Chachi's chicken and oil change. They're trying to be everything to everyone, right?
Yeah.
So it's roofing, siding, painting, windows. And so when you're trying to be everything, and an English teacher would hate me saying it this way, but for alliteration purposes, when you're trying to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one. And so where our success came about was focusing on roofing. Roofing is our thing. We're really good at roofing. Okay, good. And what would happen naturally is you're sitting there looking at the end result with the homeowner, like, man, I love my roof so much. Now I just need to get the house painted, or now I just need to do something about that siding. Well, what happens? We've built that brand recognition where after a while we started saying, why aren't we doing construction as well? And so we built Kingdom Builders Construction out of it, a DT company. Well, right. Nobody knew what Kingdom Builders Construction was, but right below it, they knew that DT logo.
Right.
So we were able to build a brand and start off. So Kingdom Builder did $5 million in revenue its first year. Patriot Garage Door and Service, a DT company, did $2 million in its first 2 years. This is a garage door company that sells garage doors at like $1,300 a pop and $167 to $250 service fees. So that's a lot of business that had to be done in 2 years to get to $2 million. But a lot of it had to do with that branding. And so my answer is two-part. From the business side, don't try to be everything to everyone. Get really good and known for one thing, and then build your brand upon that. And then on the marketing side, because when you first start, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of money to throw at it. SEO, Google Guarantee, things like that are going to definitely help, because we get a lot of leads from Google Guarantee. We do a lot of our own internal SEO as well as SEO that through partnerships, as I mentioned earlier. That's going to touch more people. Right. Once you start to build your brand, the vehicle wraps are huge for us. We have 20 some odd trucks on the road, and people I see your trucks everywhere. I hear it all the time. We have probably 5 billboards around our service area. As we get into new areas, we're getting billboards up. Those help too. I saw your billboard. But just, I would say, don't haphazardly just spend money just to spend it, to make you feel good like you're actually doing something about it. If you don't have an internal marketing person, hire somebody. Hire a company to help you with your marketing. You may not have the budget they want you to have right out of the gate, but work with them. Don't do long-term commitments, because they may not be the right fit. You may not be the right fit for them. But over time, I would say the best investment for a company is to bring marketing in-house, because you're going to be able to control your costs a lot better if you bring it in-house. And it took us to have to get to a certain revenue number for it to make sense to expense that. But yeah, that's kind of my answer to that. And I would also offer too is, and you'll see a lot of guys that have made it in our industry revenue-wise do this, but if there's anybody watching this and they just have a question, shoot it. Friend me on Facebook and then shoot me a question on a call. Sorry, I have a do not disturb, and that oftentimes gets send me a message. I love seeing people succeed. I am friends with my competitors locally, right. And that is unheard of. But I don't really look at the people in my industry, in my area, as competition. My competition is my willingness to work harder than everyone else. They're just trying to do the same thing. So I have nothing but respect for them. If a customer chooses them over me, then good for them. I'm going to get my piece of the pie, and a little bit of everyone else's is my mindset. And that's the mindset, our culture that we have internally, but we're going to do it the right way. So if you're starting out in our industry, or you're starting out in any service-based industry, and you just have questions like, hey, how do you get in with real estate agents? How do you get in with insurance? I'm actually building a program right now with Ryan Van Fleet, a referral program, but it has nothing to do with lead generation in its traditional form. It has to do with a B2B section that I believe is underserved right now, about relationship building with people who could sell for you. So like 30% of our revenue is real estate transactions, insurance agents calling us and asking us to inspect roofs for clients that are about to sign an insurance claim or a contract for, property managers. Those are relationships that most people are not building. And during slow times, that's the stuff that feeds you. When there's no storms happening, but a leak happens or whatever, we're getting calls daily from these people. So building relationships with those B2Bs, building value to them, for them, makes a huge difference. And especially if you're just starting, that's where you need to focus. That's free leads. That's free, because it's just your time. Tomorrow we're going to be in front of a real estate office locally that wanted us to meet with them and bring them breakfast, and we're going to let them know what we do and the value impact of that. Like, don't wait until you have a buyer on the hook and a home inspection report comes back saying the roof is hammered. Let us do the inspection when you're listing the property, right? If there's truly any issues with it, we're going to get them addressed prior to you having a buyer on the hook. And if, God forbid, it has to be replaced through an insurance claim, we'll get that process started. Now you can update your listing with brand new roof right? Now it's a better value for whoever's looking to buy it. Um, and if you have a roofing inspection report prior to the home inspection report happening, most of the time the home inspection reports never have anything to do with the roof because they're not going to contradict what a professional said. And so that's just like a little, a little advice right there for somebody watching that is starting out or wanting to know how to create more opportunity within their organization.
Even with that, just to clear, I just wrote it down. One more thing was like, with finding those affiliates, how do you differentiate yourself? Because I think a lot of people, you can go up to a guy and he's like, man, I've been using this roofer for like 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, should you just move on from that person, or is there like a way where you can be like, well, here, I do it a little bit different. Let me show you where I'm
So
at.
it
Or
is important it is important. Well, the number one rule is never disparage, because
right.
what you think you're disparaging, you're actually disparaging their decision making process, right? Because if somebody said, I already have somebody,
Mm-hmm.
they made that decision. So as
Right.
soon as you start to disparage that decision, they're gonna, at best, they're just gonna smile at you and go, okay, well, let me have your card, and then never call you. At worst, they're gonna be like, well, I'm very happy with who I use, so thank you for your time. You don't even know who I use, so how are you talking bad about them, whatever.
Yeah.
But knowing what your key differentiators are, and then this is a favorite phrase that I love to use, and it gets me in the number one spot a lot. And when I say me, I mean our company. And that is, I would love to be your number two guy. I would love to be that guy that if the other guy can't get to it or doesn't answer, just give me a shout. And then you can compare the differences between our service to
That's
that right
powerful.
there will always get you in the door because they're like, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm definitely going to put you in right now. And that gets us, we become the number one guy because now we're able to show the difference. You could talk all you want. I could sit there and tell you everything great about my company. Well, of course I'm going to say that, right? But when you experience it, you're like, these guys are the real deal. They put me ahead. They heard that option period was over in 2 days, and they said, you know what? I'm packed today, but I'm going to make this happen. You will have a report by the end of the day in your email. Send me your email address. And they're like, oh my gosh, like this guy prioritized me and everything. It makes such a big difference because most of the time, the guy they use is just like somebody that they met at some point, and hopefully he answers his phone or answers his text, or maybe he's providing the value that they're looking for. And if he is, good for him. He did his job, and he or he should continue to work with them. We're not looking to steal anybody from anyone, but if they want to experience the DT way, love to be your number two person. And it does make a big difference.
That's a really powerful thing because a lot of people will either discount it and be like, or they'll try to push it or stuff like that. And I haven't heard that yet. And that is probably one of the most powerful things that somebody could hear. So if you're hearing that use that, because I've never used that before. That is something that be the number two, be fine with being the number two spot because at least you're in the race.
That's right.
If you're not in the first part, like in the race, as long as you're in the race, you're still there.
Right. And if we're doing our job, then we should be able to get in that number one spot fairly quickly. Unless the other guy is doing it the way we offer it and there's not really that value difference seen, then we didn't do our job and we don't deserve that relationship.
Right. Well, other than that, it's been awesome to have you on here, Randy. I'll put all of your links in the description. This is live on Facebook and YouTube. So I'll go ahead and at you on there. And then for everybody else out there, this is another one. And I'll catch you guys later.
Appreciate it. Take care, guys.